Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're looking at Volcanion. This is the archetype that was most populated out of the top 32 in the most recent regionals that we had in Liverpool, and it looks like it's still a threatening deck, and with evolutions we do gain Starmie, which I believe is a pretty cool inclusion to the list, so we will jump into it straight away. We have 3 of the baby Volcanion. 130 HP is a good baseline start off because people actually have to commit to knock out this guy because he is a threat. His 1 energy attack Power Heater just does 20 damage, but it does allow us to choose 2 of our bench Pokemon and attach a fire energy from our discard pile to each of those Pokemon. The reason why I say this card is a threat is because we combine it with the ability of Steam Up whenever we're able to do so. So that once during our turn you may discard a fire energy from hand. If you do, your basic fire Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage, and that's stackable. So really, it's just down to how many Volcanion you can get into play, and how many Steam Ups you can do. If you can do 4 Steam Ups, that's 120 on top of the 20 base, so you're doing 140 for 1 energy, potentially on turn 1, which is, obviously it's a dream type situation to actually find that much energy, but it can happen. Volcanion's pretty crazy sometimes. Even if you're just poking for like 80, that's pretty much a very achievable number. That's really good because it sets up a 2-hit KO when we look at Volcanion EX's attack. He's not just a bench sitter for that ability, he's also pretty much the main attacker as well alongside the non-EX. He has 180 HP, he's a fire and water type, so we do hit a couple of nice weaknesses. Scizor made 2 top 8 slots in the recent regional, so obviously being able to stomp that is pretty nice. And we have the attack Volcanic Heat. For 2 fire and a colourless, we do 130, and we can't attack, or we can't use this attack during our next turn. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to use things like the Power Heater, as well as Max Elixirs to get not just 1 Volcanion, but hopefully at least 2 set up, so that when we use our attack with Volcanic Heat, we simply retreat into our other one, and we keep bouncing between our Volcanion, so we always ignore that effect of the attack. Additionally, you can see we have a high escape rope count as well as the high float stone count, so we should be able to move between our Volcanions quite effectively to be able to ignore that text, which would otherwise be pretty annoying. We're not playing Ranger in here to get around it, we're just relying on the switching tools that we have in here, but Ranger is something you could decide to play. So yeah, the full 4 count of the EXs. Sorry I've not got all the same artwork. It triggers me as much as I'm sure it's triggering you right now. We do just have 2 Shaymin EX for the setup ability, helping us draw cards. Having that aggressive turn is pretty handy to us. Trying to hit elixirs quickly and start threatening multiple attackers throughout the board. That's one of the strengths of this deck. Even a 1 energy non-EX is potentially 2-hit KOing stuff, so you're never really out of threats and attacking options with this list, which is very interesting and cool for Volcanion. It's a big reason why it's so popular. And the new intro from Evolutions is going to be the Starmie line. We're actually using the Staryu from Breakpoint. It has the lowest HP out of all the Staryus, but it does have free retreat, and I think that outclasses all the other Staryus. If you're really worried about being like Sky Return with a Fury Belt, I don't think there's many archetypes that play DCE plus Fury Belt, only things like Yveltal decks. So I think that 40 HP is pretty much the same as 60 in a lot of situations, so you may as well just have the free retreat, because it means we can save float stones and escape ropes for other Pokemon, so this becomes a pretty good lead. And then we have 2 of the Starmie. It's 90 HP water type, which is why you can see some dive balls in there, and it has the ability Space Beacon. Once during a turn, you may discard a card from hand. If you do, put 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. And this really overtakes energy retrieval. Energy retrieval used to be a staple 3 or 4 of in Volcanion to try and get these recycles. Here, by getting a Starmie into play, and maybe even 2 Starmie into play, you can guarantee that recycle as long as you have your abilities. Now, you may think that this makes you weaker to ability lock, but if you're being ability locked out of Starmie, you're also ability locked out of Steam Up. So the only thing that really weakens you is that if you have to Space Beacon to then get manual attachments, that's where it's weaker than energy retrieval. In all other situations, it's pretty much like it's no different. If you're ability locked, it's still a pain for Volcanion if you have the Starmie or energy retrievals. So it's a very slight reason why you're weaker to ability lock, but I don't think it changes much in terms of how weak we are to ability lock. Because we're playing Volcanion anyway, we're targeting Garbodor straight away. Hex is still a pain. Silent Lab, we still need to bounce, these sorts of things. Starmie doesn't change these things. So yeah, very cool. So that rounds out the Pokemon. We do have the 2 Dive Ball. We are, of course, as I mentioned, a dual type with Volcanion. So you find Starmies as well as the Volcanion pieces, hopefully quite early. And this really balances out the fact that we're not playing Hooper EX in the deck. Hooper is often seen as a staple in Volk. Sometimes it's flip-flopped. There's a couple of reasons why I don't play the Hooper. At the moment, we're not playing Skyfield. But that's not to say that we can't take advantage of Skyfield, because in the meta right now, there's Rainbow Road, there's Rayquaza, there's Gardevoir. These all play Skyfield. So there'll be situations where we can fill our bench quite big, then we can replace it with our own stadium, which we're playing Freighted Town in here, which I'll get onto later. So we should be able to fill up our bench of things. But because we're not the ones playing Skyfield, we don't have the bench space for Hooper now that we have the extra bench sitter of Staryus and Starmies. So that's why we're not playing Hooper in here. Potentially a bit slower, but we're using Dive Ball to hopefully balance that out so that we can still find plenty of Volcanion in the first turn to get big old power heaters going. From there, very consistent stuff. It's all big high counts, 4-ofs for the most part. 3 escape ropes. We're trying to gust the opponent into the active, make sure that we're being awkward for them. It means that we have a chance against, whatchamacallits, it's just things like Regice and Jolteon and stuff like that. Obviously, we have to deal with the Vileplume first, via Lysandre most likely. But from there, the 3 escape ropes pretty much should carry us, which is very cool. As well as just, again, gusting out our heavy old Volcanion EX with a 3 retreat cost so that we can spam Volcanic Heat as often as we like. The escape rope's really nice because under things like Ability Lock, we can gust the opponent's active. Maybe they're forced to promote a Shaymin. Oftentimes they'll have things like Shaymin, Hooper, Garbodor on the bench, and they don't really want to promote any of those. Hooper's a thing that can tank a hit if we're under Ability Lock, but then they still have to retreat a big old chunky Hooper, so we're making it awkward for them with the escape ropes so that we're attacking on all fronts really. We can hit the active hard, or we can also access the bench every turn, which is big for us. The 4 Max Elixir, like I say, this is to get the EX going as quickly as possible. It's very important against Garbodor decks to get the EX set up, because the non-EX is only doing a 20 damage poke. That's not getting anywhere anytime soon. Sure, the acceleration's nice, maybe you can do it for a turn, but to really go ahead in the game, you need to deal with a Garb, and for that, you need the EX. So Elixir really sort of makes Garbodor less of a worry, because we can get into the EX a lot more quicker, and it means, again, we can have just multiple threats on the board. We can be threatening 2 EXs back to back, pretty much, as we keep spamming Steam Ups and Volcanic Heats and whatever else. So really nice to supplement, make sure we get plenty of attackers going throughout the game. 4 Trainers Mail, just for regular consistency things. You want to be hitting these elixirs as quickly as possible. Floatstone's a big one. There's a lot of things we can access with the Trainers Mail. 4 Ultra Ball, similar reasons, just simple stuff really. Discarding fires is sometimes a play you'd like to make as well. 4 VS Seeker, again, just spamming the supporters. You can see we're really thin on the supporter count in terms of how many options we have of supporters, but it means we're very focused on what we want to do. We want to either be drawing cards with Sycamore, which we play 4 of. We want to be disrupting the opponent with N, which we play 2 of. We want to be Lysandering either Garbodor or EXs that we can deal with. So that's why we play the 2 count. And then the last supporter we're playing is still a Fisherman, because even though we have Starmie now, I still think Fisherman is relevant, because there might be times where your opponent, for example, Lysandre Starmie, kills it, and then we're sort of out of energy recovery, so we still have the Fisherman to fall back on with the VS Seekers to spam. I think it's the safest way to go about this play. So really, if they're Lysandering Starmie, they're just hurting their own prize trade, rather than it being a huge issue for us, because now whatever Steam Ups we want, they have to be with remaining fire energy in the deck. And really, we're playing 11, which is a high count, but normally we want like 6 or 7 of them just to be on the board anyway, for EXs and maybe a non-EX. So we do still need the Fisherman, I think, to recover and bounce back energy. Sometimes you use it even when you have Starmie in play, just to have, you know, the big crazy huge steam up to deal with like a Mega or something like that. So yeah, it's a good one-off. I like it in here even with the Starmie combo. It's still an important card in my opinion. Our stadium of choice is Faded Town. We're playing the 3 count because I think there's a lot of Parallel City in format right now to deal with things like Rainbow Road and Ray, and naturally that hurts Volcanion as well because we like having, you know, probably a 5 Pokemon bench is ideal for Volk because we need to have plenty of Volk EXs. We need the Staryu as well. So that can be a pain. So we want to bounce that as often as possible to keep getting board presence, as well as denying people Skyfield. Things like Rayquaza can otherwise run through us, and Rainbow Road. This is almost like playing a parallel for ourselves. But obviously we can't play parallel, or you don't really want to play more than one parallel as the Volk player because both sides are painful for us. We don't want to put ourselves to 3 Pokemon, like I mentioned earlier, especially with the Starmie. Maybe in previous builds you could get away with it, but now with Starmie it's an extra slot that you need. And you don't want to limit yourself by 20 damage if you're limiting the opponent to a 3-card bench. So limiting your opponent to 5 Pokemon is hopefully enough. And it's Faded Town because there's Ray and there's Mega Guardian format. So may as well just get some extra damage in. If we're being hexed or whatnot, we want to still poke them a little bit lower, get them into range for later turns. So just gives them something to worry about. And I like the 3 count to try and force the opponent to have more resources and stuff like that. It sounds good to me. So I like 3 Faded. 3 Floatstone as well. I really like the 3 count. Again, slap it on an EX, get the attack in, Floatstone straight up out of there, either into this guy for more acceleration or into another Volcanion for a big attack all over again. It's really cool because if they can't one-hit KO the 180 HP beast, then we promote another one, and it's kind of like, sure, you can Lysandre the damaged one, but then you're wasting a turn Lysandring, you're not hexing. So then I've got a fully healed Volcanion that you've gusted to the bench anyway, so that's ready to go again. So it really puts your opponent into an awkward spot as long as Volcanions can tank hits at times. So very good stuff. The free Floatstone makes this very nice for us. It's also good on like the 2 retreat cost baby Volcanion, so pretty good stuff all around. And then just 11 fire energy. I'm pretty sure with the Starmie combo that you keep on the board, unlike energy retrieval where you had to keep digging through your deck to draw those things and just cross your fingers that you can draw into energy retrieval. Sometimes that puts you down a path where you're like, okay, if I steam up 2 times now with this hand, then Sycamore, cross my fingers and hope to find energy retrieval, I can get 1 more steam up and attach for turn and attack for, let's just say for example. With the Starmie you can secure it a bit more. You know that Starmie's on the board, cool, I can just automatically get 2 back. You don't have to stress out about it. So with Volcanion, you can really calculate your turns a lot better with Starmie because you know that you've got it on the board, and as long as you're not under ability lock, you know you can use it. So I think the 11 count is fine. It was either 11 or 12 really in general for Volcanion. I think most players have landed on 11 in the end just for an extra space. That's basically what we've done here. But I think it's better because we effectively have more energy retrievals as long as Starmie's working. So I think we get away with it in general, and we can obviously Starmie whenever we want to. So yeah, that seems pretty good. Let's look at a few other options. I have mentioned Hooper. I think if you play Hooper, you need to play Skyfield. And I think Skyfield makes you way weaker against Rayquaza and Rainbow Road. That's the only reason why I'm not playing Hooper. Maybe if the format changes, I can see maybe like one of Skyfield in this deck could work. I'm not opposed to that really, but you can't really keep it in play all game against your opponent because they will just run through you too quickly. One Flareon EX could be handy. It has the Flash Fire ability, allowing you to move a fire energy to from one of your Pokemon to this guy. So you get set up a little bit quicker, even without the help of elixirs. So this is a threat from turn 2, always pretty much, as long as you have abilities. Blaze Ball is an attack that can get even bigger than Volcanion if you want to stack a huge amount of energy on. And of course you can spam it for 2 turns in a row without the need for Ranger or Rope or Float or something like that. So if you want to put all your eggs into the Flareon basket, that can be handy. It also means that if they're dealing with the Flareon EX, you still have 4 Volcanions on the board, so you still have plenty of steam ups for future turns. That's one potential criticism of this deck. Once you've lost like 2 Volcanions, then your steam up is only going to 190, which is still fine, but it's not KOing Megas and stuff. So the Flareon in that regard can be a very important card. Another card that you could consider is Entei. I've already mentioned Rayquaza, and I've already mentioned Rainbow Road being potentially awkward. This could be a way to counteract this by having Combat Blaze Entei. For 2 fire, you do 20 plus 20 more for each of your opponent's bench. I don't think it's a huge number, but it's pretty nice. And it's also another card that can actually help you out against Garbodor. As long as they fill their bench to 5, Combat Blaze can get that KO, or 4, I mean. Then you're in 100 damage range for just 2 energy. That's pretty efficient. So it could be, again, a non-EX one-off that works in a couple of good matchups. So again, I think all this comes if you play the Skyfield build. I think it's a bit of a worry to play Skyfield right now. And also I don't really see many spaces in the list for more Pokemon personally. You start cutting consistency cards, like cutting down the males and stuff like that. We're making a statement by playing Starmie and just saying that that's good enough right now to come in over these other attacking options. Pokemon Ranger could be an option. Obviously, in earlier builds, we used to play Ranger. I think because we just have so many switching cards, it's much faster. We can be spamming other things now. We can be N-ing to hurt the opponent. We can be Lysandring for the prizes. Just using your supporter in general is really painful, so I'd rather just use a switch card to get around our awkward effect. But playing Ranger means that you are better, once again, against Vileplume box and stuff like that. So if you're expecting Vile blocks, maybe you play the Ranger to stay safe. Another supporter you could play is Olympia. Olympia switches are active, guaranteed, and it's a supporter, right? So we can have it in the discard pile and be fairly content that we can spam it. Whereas if it's like a float stone, it can get shut off by things like Bayonet or Fright Knight. And if it's rope, sometimes you just want to access the active. So Olympia could be that midway point for you, as well as giving you that bit of heal. Again, combating Fright Knight could be the thing that you're looking to do there, and Olympia's pretty handy at doing that, to maybe set you out of range or force your opponent to attach an extra energy to their Yveltal EX or something like that. Could be pretty good. I've mentioned Skyfield a lot. I think you very much could play Skyfield. Right now, I just don't think the meta's right for it. I think Volcanion is good with Skyfield, but again, it's a meta call in my decision. As of right now, I don't like Skyfield, but maybe if you're watching this video 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a couple of months down the line, Skyfield could definitely be the play. Based on the meta game, that's all I can say really. Volcanion does enjoy having a large bench, but I just think right now you can't play it, but it's certainly an option. Fury Belt is a card that we've actually cut from Volcanion altogether. Cutting the Fury Belt means we're pretty much only weaker against Yveltal builds. I think that's the only way we suffer. And even then, they can play around Fury Belt by having Fright Knight in their deck. So I don't think we lose anything by cutting Fury Belt now. The difference between Evolutions and pre-Evolutions is that Fury Belt was amazing for Mega Guardy. You could put the Fury Belt onto the non-EX, and oftentimes the non-EX would tank 2 hits. Suddenly you've set up 2 EXs on the bench whilst they've had to 2-hit into a single prize attacker, and you've probably finished off or got pretty close to dealing with one of their EXs. Now they have Rattata, they just get rid of the Fury Belt, and they have Dragonite, so they can reload their bench too much, so that they can really commit to that one-hit KO on the non-EX very comfortably. So Fury Belt, I feel, is cuttable. I just don't see the value that it used to gain. I don't see us getting that value anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, that's about it. One more card is Professor's Letter. One of these things where you just want to dig the energy out of your deck so that you can guarantee steam ups and stuff like that. I could definitely see cutting 1 mail just for the letter. I don't think that's a bad play at all. The only reason I'm against that is because we're using elixirs, and you never really know if you play the letter turn 1 and then later down the turn you're getting elixirs and you're whiffing them because you've already plucked 2 out your deck straight away. So it's kind of counterproductive playing the elixirs as well as letter, but I think a one-off could be fine as long as you play it well. So what changes have I made? Have I made any? I think we're fine. Okay, we'll save this up and we will get into some games. It's going to be an interesting meta call, whether you want to play Volcanion or not. Sizzle looks like it could be on the rise because Mega Guardy looks like a real threat. It has gained a lot from Dragonite and Rattata, and in my early testing, it is one of the decks to beat right now. And if people want a free ride against the Guardy, they're likely going to be look to Sizzle or other metal types. And if you're doing those things, Volcanion then gets 3 wins. It's a strange little trifecta within a much greater format, but you could end up finding more sizzles along the way. So Volcanion could be a pretty good play. Looks like we're up against Greninja, and Greninja's not actually that bad of a matchup for us. I think we're not really favoured. I'd say it's roughly 50-50. As long as we can pressure, we are going second as well, which is actually really good for us. As long as we can pressure the Froakies and Frogadiers quickly enough, I think we're absolutely fine. And we do have a turn, a good hand for having an aggressive turn, so that's all good. We have the baby. Don't think I want to play this down just yet. I think we're fine without. One thing that is awkward is that we can get Shadow Stitching. That's another reason to play Ranger, actually. If you get Shadow Stitchings, they shut off our Starmie now as well. And that makes us slightly weaker to Greninja than in previous builds, so that might be a consideration. But other than that, we're looking pretty good. We see the Talonflame in the active slot, which is, you know, a lot more HP than a Froakie. It's something that we can get, but we need to get all of our steam ups. So we're going to Ultra Ball. And we're going to go ahead. Looks like we do have all of our Starmies. We've prized a Volcanion, but that's not a big deal. We can always reach 170, which is what we need to do against Greninja. Finding Escape Rope could be pretty good this turn. Off this N, that would be amazing actually. I think we're going to dig for the rope if we're able to. We do hit an Elixir. Here's N. There's rope and energies, which is exactly what we need. Do I have enough? I don't have enough cards to pull this off, do I? I Ultra Ball the Sycamore and the Starmie, but then I have no hand. So maybe I Ultra Ball away Starmie energy and just get a Shaymin and hope to find Volcanion. Okay, which means we rope first because we're going for cards off Shaymin. If we can get the KO here, it would be great. I might get rid of the Sycamore now because it means we do get more cards off Shaymin. Well, it's the same amount of cards, but it means we only need the Volcanion. It means we don't need Volk plus energy. So we'll do that. We'll steam up. And we'll draw 5, hoping to hit Volcanion EX or Dive Ball. And we hit Dive Ball, which is great. So we've dealt with a Froakie, and that's huge for us. That's really, really good for us. I think I'm going to put Faded into play because we're likely going to get hit with something like N or Ace Trainer. So we'll just go for the big old Power Heater for 80. And we're going to set up both the X's. Very nice. Good aggressive turn 1, dealing with the only threat on the Greninja player's board. We have the Lysandre for next turn. No energy right now, but looks pretty good so far. Let's see how many Froakie they want to put down this turn. They might have to search out more than one. If they're able to, of course. There's the Wally. Oh wow, so they can actually get duplicates from the Wally. That is pretty beautiful. And we see the Splash Energy as well. That's going to be really handy also. We still see them find a Froakie. Less relevant now though. Well, that's pretty good. The Wally has put them back in decent shape. Otherwise, it was really good for us. Looks like they've prized a Greninja, which is good for us. No doubt about that. We're going to Dive Ball into Staryu. And I think we're just going to Volcanic Heat the Frogadier with the Splash. Could spend a Lysandre, but playing around balloons is a thing. And I'm not too sure of my turn next turn. We have the rope to try and get back into this guy, as long as we keep the... Oh, sorry, we need to spend the rope here. Okay. Yeah, we need to spend the rope here because of the 2 retreat of this guy. He'll probably feed us Froakie, right? Oh, actually giving us Talonflame. Interesting. Could still play Lysandre now. Sure, let's just deal with the frogs as they're here. Limiting him to 2 is pretty awkward. I know this one has the splash, but as long as we can play around it, it should be fine. Picking up VS Seeker is so huge for us. Now I actually think we're in good shape again. I think that Wally put me in a bit of a spot. So our turn 1 was great, but then he responded perfectly with Wally. And now we're looking okay because we picked up VS Seeker again. So hopefully we're okay. See a couple of trainers' mails. There is Frogadier. So it looks like it was the 4th one was in hand, so okay. Full Floatstone out of the Volc EX. We can quite comfortably evolve into Starmie now. And we'll VS Seeker just for Sycamore. We do have Elixir, which is great news. No energy in our discard pile, but we don't need to steam up anything yet. I'm going to train his mail first to try and have better odds on this Elixir. Ah, it's always the case. Watch us miss now. Oh, phew. Okay, we're good. We're good. So a prize a turn, a prize a turn. That's the most important thing here. We really need to pressurize because he can start using Shadow Stitching to do 80 damage and stop all of our abilities. But he should only really be doing that when he finds his breaks. Until then, he's going to be looking to do 160 damage. And that's a lot, as we all know. We do see the Sycamore, so no break this turn because of Wally, which is good. That would have been a worry for me. Here's one Greninja. Going to see a Dive Ball for another. And there's Bursting Balloon onto the one with the splash. Don't really agree with that. I think he wants the splash energied one to get knocked out, so he should have ballooned this guy. Going to see Town Map. Looks like a Greninja. That's a lot of energy prized. And they play at least 2 Wally. Interesting list. See a second attachment to the Greninja so that he can keep the splash on board. Yeah, not too big of a fan of this. Picking up Lysandre's good. Means we don't have to spend VS Seeker. Obviously we're not playing any Hex in this deck because our abilities are pretty important as well. Obviously you can steam up loads and then Hex, but doesn't really help many matchups. Only really Greninja. We will bench this. And we'll just Volcanic Heat. 2 prizes away, but the opponent is starting to get ninjas going. The best thing is that there's a Greninja prized here, right? So he's again behind on ninjas. He can break evolve this one. As long as we can get a KO on it next turn, I feel confident. Here comes the break. Let's see how much he can do. He's gonna look to the KO this. I wonder if he'll go for the... He should probably Shadow Stitch here, I would think. Oh, of course, because of this, he can take the Greninja this turn. I think that's what he should be going for. Yeah, Greninja and Wally. Wow, that's gross. If he could get a double KO here, that is absolutely ridiculous. Scary times. His hand would have to be 2 more energy, though, to make it work. Or, like, energy retrieval. Just the Shadow Stitch for 80. So we're going to Fisherman here. Start setting up another Volcanion EX because we really need to. We'll just get a poke in. Doesn't mean much, just means with one less steam up, but if he continues the stitching train, then it doesn't matter. So yeah, the Starmie does make us way weaker without Ranger. Maybe that's something we need to work on. Ranger definitely improves Greninja because you get through the shadow stitching and then we blow him out of the water. Either way, we didn't have the energy or anything like that on board to do it, but still. Do they have a draw card here? No, just a Moonlight Slash. Interesting. Very interesting. Feeding me a Greninja break is kind of him. So it will steam up twice. We'll Space Beacon away the Faded Town, we really don't need that. Pretty surprised that they didn't continue the stitching lock. I think they were pretty safe. But oh well. Here comes Elixir. We hit it, which is huge. Huge for us, really huge. And I think now we actually end the opponent. Can't put down Staryu because it's a snipe away and he's got 3 prizes. Don't think I want to bench either of these cards. I mean, play any of these cards. Maybe next turn I'll play it, but not now. Okay, decision. KO this turn with this one means that it's got 150 left, so we just need the 1 steam up to be around to get the KO. We just need to steam up next turn. We have Space Beacon as long as we have abilities. If we attack with this one, he hits 80. We need to find a switch card or pay retreat into this guy. I think we're attacking with the benched. No, I kind of want to bait him to... Oh man. Okay. We're going to bait him to Moonlight Slash, because if he ability plus Shadow Stitch next turn, he doesn't KO this. So that's the line we're going for. One prize away. Ultra Ball's a huge pickup as long as we don't get Shadow Stitching. Let's see what they received off the end. See a Trainer's Mail. For letter, that's pretty big. That's 1 Shuriken. Here comes the Shuriken. It's going to be on the bench. Okay. That leads me to believe he either has Lysandre or he's stitching the active here. Professor Sycamore. Don't know what other cards he really wants, to be honest. Puts down a Froakie. Really don't agree with that. Strongly don't agree. Now stitching makes no sense. Well, okay. There's no way for us to Lysandre, so he's not been punished by it, but it was a hugely risky play. I think we're retreating into Starmie here. Let me think this through. I think this attachment is important. I think it has to go here. Put this guy down and we'll end. Trainer's Mail's not bad. Rope would be pretty strong here. It would be game, in fact. Well, good for us. Sometimes lucky, I guess. 3 rope, pretty clutch. That was a pretty big misplay, I think, from our opponent. Otherwise, the game was kind of in their hands to win. But we clutched it. I think, okay, now that we've seen how the Greninja matchup plays out, I think a Ranger would be pretty wise. Don't really see the cut, but that's something for you guys to work on. Yeah, nice game though. Nice game. Those ropes were pretty big. I think if the opponent played their balloons better as well, they would have put us in more of an issue. Never balloon a splash energied Greninja. I'm already opposed to attacking it. I guess it forces the resource, but still. Not a fan. Right, let's find another game. The opponent's calling the coin. And we win the flip. This is a deck that doesn't mind going first or second, really. Go first gives you an extra manual attachment, which is, you know, fine by us, but go second and we have access to Power Heater, which is also great for us. So looks like we're up against Mega Mewtwo. Faded Town looks like it's going to be a pretty big card in this matchup, which is annoying because it's like the only thing we want to Ultra Ball here. But we'll live with it. Yes, draw me a mulligan card. Good. Wow, 2 elixirs in our opening hand is pretty big. I'm actually kind of tempted to Ultra Ball away 1 Faded Town and a Starmie. We can completely set up a Volcanion this turn if we hit our elixirs. Alternative is to play the mail now. If we mail first, we could get something like a Dive Ball, which means that then our Ultra Ball can become Shaymin. Or we could get a supporter. Yeah, let's do that first. Okay, we get a supporter, which means we're happy to play our hand down, find Volc EX. Annoying that we're losing to Stadium early, but we can't really do much about that. We've also prized 1 Volcanion EX, which is actually kind of awkward in this matchup because we really do need Steam Up in order to overcome the Mega. Right, let's see some elixirs in action. There's 1. Kapow. There's 2. Just Volcanion things. Spread the Pokemon around. Spread the energy around. He can't really threaten me. Not this turn anyway. Sure, let's still threaten both. Faded in for what it's worth. And Sycamore. Float is very good. Keep Escape Rope for next turn. I think I keep the rest for next turn, to be honest. As long as we don't get hexed, it's not really punishable. Let's do that. Ooh, just had a shiver. It's pretty cold today. We draw into a much nicer hand off the end. I'll take that. Well. Again, sometimes lucky. Okay. Not really a true reflection, but we'll get one more game in and see. I guess it does show that we have turn 2 explosive power. But beyond that, not much. But even in those sorts of situations, you could see the power of maybe something like Escape Rope. If they find like one Mewtwo, put a Spirit Link on, then we can access the rope, get a big KO, and really put the opponent back a turn. That's why I like the heavy rope count a lot. It really does make a lot of sense in here. We have a great first hand here. Up against a fighting variant, it looks like. Fighting variants are, well, interesting. If it's Zygarde, it might be Zygarde Plume, which is really disgusting. It could be Zygarde, almost like an old big basic style deck with Garbodor, which is also awkward. If it's just pure Zygarde, then they have a lot of acceleration and Cellstorm, so it's all awkward. None of it's great for us. Okay, we have got a pretty beast hand though, not gonna lie. We're gonna find 2 Volcanion and a Staryu here. I think I want to keep the Lysandre in hand because there's a Carbink staring us down right now. And although Power Heat is a good way of getting over Carbink, I'd also like to kind of access their bench dude. Or just have the option to. I think this still goes active. And we'll set up. Could even be Groudon. 130, 160, 190. That gets over Zygarde as long as they don't play Fury Belt. They sometimes play Power Memory. Keep the slot open. Nah, we'll put this down. And we'll just play N now. Try and get some elixirs going. Nope. Okay, we can pass here. Could steam up once. Don't really see the point. Hold them for next turn. And we'll learn some more about our opponent's deck, hopefully. Or not. Let's try again, shall we? Sorry guys, people just conceding. I mean, that was a pretty good turn 1, right? But oh, I hyped up fighting so much, saying that there was lots of ways it could be awkward. Then they concede. Oh well. Volcanion's pretty scary for things that don't play Garb, I guess. So we'll flip the coin one last time, as long as we don't get someone concede on us straight away. And the opponent's going first. Like I've already mentioned, we don't particularly mind going second, especially when we get to start with this guy. I'll put this guy down as well. And see how that goes. And it's a mirror match. And mirror matches are pretty weird, not gonna lie. It's really just how many elixirs can you hit, basically. And how many volts can set each other up, really. So us going second is no bad thing here, really, because we get the first power heater off. And that's a lot of energy acceleration, as long as we don't have the deadest hand in the world, which right now we're banking on Trainer's Mail. But hey, could be worse. Marginally. Also, us playing 3 rope could be handy here, because whenever they're trying to power heater, we'll gust it out of the way. Them putting in Scorched Earth is pretty good for us, because our hand is otherwise pretty gross. That could be a saving grace. Scorched Earth is, of course, an option for us. I think oftentimes if we have Fire Energy in hand, we want to steam up, or if we want to attach for turn. I think that's a bit too liberal with discards. Even with something like Starmie, I think it's a bit too liberal. So the opponent puts down a baby, plays a Fury Belt. Not a problem. VS Seeker for Lysandre. I'm going to get Lysandre, it looks like. They keep the EX active, interesting. Okay, we'll play both our males before this Scorched Earth. Sycamore seems pretty good. Let's dig for like Floatstone or Rope. Floatstone, pretty good. It's one of the things I asked for. Now, the Scorched Earth is tempting, but I'm just going to attach because this is a pretty clean Sycamore. We'll allow Scorched Earth to stay in play. I don't mind it. That's a lot of energy. Which is great, because we can start attempting to set up double Volk. We're actually going to draw some cards here. Even more energy. Let's... Actually, I want to Elixir this one. We get it, which is great. We'll retreat into this guy, get 2 steam ups going. I think I want to Ultra Ball Staryu here to have a clean Sycamore next turn. Seems pretty good. And we'll Power Heater. Let's see if the opponent can get a lot going with their 2-card hand. With only 2 cards, I feel they're probably not going to get... Well, okay. Now with a 3-card hand, maybe things change, but I was going to say... don't worry. We're seeing things happen in front of us. Here's the energy retrieval. Just the attachment. So they're prodding for 30. That doesn't sound great. I guess they're moving the EX out of the way. But this is where Escape Rope comes. Well, we are drawing pretty perfectly here. Escape Rope becomes great, I was about to say. And, yeah. It's pretty good right now. Yeah, I thought Hooper. I thought as much. We'll Sycamore. How many are in here? 2? We're going to Ultra Ball away N and the Stadium. Very grateful for the opponent giving us that Stadium. Very nice of them. We're going to Starmie away the Fire to get 2 Fire. It's very viable. So we can attach Steam Up for KO if I want it. Alternatives is to Steam Up once, attach 1, and then we set up the Hooper for 2, hit KO. They still have to find Floatstone, and we're not really too worried. I mean, they don't have much energy on board, and they only have a 2-card hand, which is why I want to be aggressive now, I think. Just because, I mean, they Sycamore, they get Elixir, they get Attachment, they're all good, but they don't have it right now. Let's just assume they're going to keep drawing poorly, right? I mean, we have Elixirs of our own that we can play next turn, so... I think I will hold the Floatstone. There's not too much reason to play it just yet. So we'll just spank for 160. Oh, sorry, yeah, 160. 160 is fine. That's in some ways better. In some ways. Not always, but in some. Forces the opponent to have the float stone, right? Or switch card. See a letter. Letter is going to help them draw cards and get attachments going. So not too bad. There's an attachment to the Volcanion EX. And just a pass. That's really good for us. It's actually insanely good for us. We'll just Sycamore here. Any elixirs and stuff right now is just cream on top. Well, there's one elixir, I guess. Fail. We can start end proofing, I guess. It is a genuine concern. Yeah, we'll take this. We've already thinned our deck quite nicely though. Don't think I want to thin any more than this. Because like Ultra Ball and Shaymin do become good later on. Just not yet. We don't need to space... Oh, I could space beacon away Starmie. Yeah, that's fine. Then I can discard the fires again just with steam ups. End proofing. Ooh, draw cards. It's getting better all the time. One steam up is fine. I still want to get 2 accelerated energies this turn. Putting the opponent in all sorts of bad spots here. Gone ahead in prizes. The non-EX is in the active. We have 2 Volcanions threatening, so even if they do get a Lysandre KO, it means they're not accelerating any more energy. Yeah, I think we're in a decent spot here for sure. We've end-proofed ourselves as best we can for now. All good things are happening right now. See the energy retrieval? After the first steam up. Gonna see Scorched Earth. It's actually been great. Been great for us so far. We have appreciated it. Gonna see the Ultra Ball. And they discard a couple to find that non-EX all over again. Protecting themselves from rope. Which is pretty good. See the attachment to the Volk and just the Sycamore. Still, we're in great shape. Forcing them to take a single prize here is really awkward for them. Gonna see a steam up. That's 2 steam ups, that's 3, so they're now in range. And they'll be setting up 2 Volcanions of their own. Not bad. But we're super far ahead in prize trade. I'm just space speaking away N, because it's actually one of our worst cards at this point. Could also be Rope, because he does have 2 non-EX on the board. This is a pretty dead card to draw. You can draw 2 more cards. Look at this N proofing. Love it. Okay, let's take some prizes, shall we? Not bad. Not bad at all. Don't think I could see a better hand in all of Pokemon. Because like even if they end and take 2 prizes here, like we still have win on board. I don't really see how they come back from this lead. They have to attack with non-EX this turn, but I don't see, like, all we're doing is getting more Volcanions going. The mirror is literally just a race because we can one-hit KO each other so freely with the weakness to ourselves. There's the N. I really think it's inconsequential. Gonna see a steam up. We'll see if we can actually, how well we've N-proofed. Watch us draw like 2 escape ropes or something. And be sad. Lots of steam ups. There's a rope. We'll just give him the other EX if he wants it. Here comes N. Oh, not even. Okay. Cool. Great. Great news. GG. Well, I'm pretty sure we were quite N-proof there. Yep. We did it. So, we overcame a Greninja just about. We had a couple of concedes. Early win against a Mewtwo, then a Carbink conceded, and then we took down a mirror match. So I hope that was entertaining enough for you guys. Volcanion is definitely a threat. I think I showed off Starmie quite nicely as well. You can even use Starmie's Space Beacon ability just to discard 1 if you have no energy in hand. So it's also a pretty good way of helping you out against N. So that's good to bear in mind. So let me know what you guys think about Volcanion. Is it a good play for the upcoming regionals in Dortmund? I'm going to be there. Hopefully I have something to report as well. Who knows, should be a lot of fun, and can it compete in maybe even the intercontinentals as well. I feel like it's a pretty good archetype. It can overcome Garbodors. We didn't see any Garb, but we were shadow stitching a bit, I guess. So yeah, a lot to discuss. Get it all in the you know, the thingamajig down below in the comments. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. For now though, it has been Joe from Omnipoke, and I will see you guys next time.